If there's no great, glorious end to all this, if nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do.
This is a quote from Angel, a show that means a hell of a lot to me. Angel itself is a spin-off from the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Buffy is a show all about growing up. That's literally the whole premise, that's the point of the series. So if that's the case for Buffy, Angel follows suit in being a show about dealing with all the issues that we don't really know about until we reach that adulthood stage. The metaphor at the forefront of Angel is one of a recovering alcoholic, trying to make amends for past sins and a load of internal guilt. When looking at both of these shows together, we explore a barrage of themes that can be pretty difficult to discuss within and outside of the fictional shows, but one of the strongest questions that they pose is one that we find ourselves asking each other far too regularly at the moment. Will everything be okay in the end? Being a fan of these shows can be pretty difficult because their perceptions are a bit skewed, I feel. Sometimes they're seen as just too campy and cheesy, others are soppy and teenage melodrama akin to Twilight, which, I'll have you know, Buffy and Angel did the vampire and werewolf romance much better than Twilight could ever even dream of being, and it is the definitive version, and the only one that works, and I will not hear otherwise.
Who's that guy?
Sorry if I sound a bit ill, that's because I am. I've been bedbound for like most of the week. Season 1 of Buffy is probably what you expect it to be, and weakest of at least the main show, because it's not as long as Angel Season 4. But I think that in hindsight almost works to its benefit. They open up within high school hijinks, and the views on the world are very black and white at this point. Good and evil are very transparent. But as the season and the show progresses, right and wrong becomes much more of a grey area. Motivations are complicated, and the one thing that becomes clear is that as you go through life, we are all united by one thing, and that is the finish line: our death. Angel is much more focused on the harsh realities that we only really figure out once making it into adulthood, which is a very difficult place to get to in of itself. Growing up and navigating the world after that are two very different but very hard things to do. But I will say Buffy season 6 and 7 I think cross over thematically a lot more with Angel, because Buffy season 5 was really supposed to be the end. Buffy reached the end of her arc, that's why she dies at the end again, and I don't think seasons 6 and 7 were received as well for a lot of fans, but in my opinion, they organically extend the show as well as the character in a thematically resonant way. Season 5 ends with Buffy's emotional sacrifice for her sister, ending her fight to understand what she feels the point of living is, and for her, it is to protect her family and loved ones, even if it costs her own life. It really is the perfect ending, but I think bringing her back in season 6 and that forcing her into a state of depression and self-destruction because of the additional hurdles she's now having to face despite the catharsis of the ending of the last season is incredibly effective, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. The first episode I want to directly reference came in Buffy's 3rd season. We saw Angel return from hell, very similar to Buffy's return in season 6, as well as Faith's entrance at the end of Angel season 1. We will discuss all these similarities later, don't you worry, but to briefly explain why Angel is kind of a shell of himself when he comes back, is because in season 2, we discover that he was cursed with a soul, so that if he ever experiences true happiness, he will revert to his soulless vampiric form, Angelus. And that happened in season 2 after sleeping with Buffy, and the remainder of season 2 saw David Boreanaz chew astronomical scenery whilst being the most diabolical villain ever put to screen.
You know what I hate most about these things? They're so damn fragile.
But Buffy was forced to send him to hell to prevent the destruction of Earth, despite Willow actually managing to return his soul. A very personal and emotional sacrifice for the wider world. It was incredibly emotional, and I cry every time I watch it. But he gets sent back from hell to Sunnydale in season 3, and as I say, a shell of his former self. He needs to adjust back after his darkness took over, and this is also where the alcoholic analogy can really come into play. After a period of succumbing to the dark urges, he begins to be tormented by apparitions telling him to hurt Buffy, the one person he'd do anything and everything to protect. The apparitions act as ghosts of Angel's guilt, posed with the question, what if it happens again, and worse, the potential for even more damage? Is his life worth that risk? It all leads to Buffy saving him from taking his own life.
I can't do it again, Buffy. I can't become a killer.
Then fight it.
It's too hard. Just this once. Let me be strong.
Strong is fighting. It's hard, and it's painful, and it's every day.
The character of Angel is built upon these very ideas. Someone who was once a truly evil demon, the worst of the worst, did a lot of bad things, but upon receiving a soul, gained a moral compass. Reflecting and empathizing allowed for balance, so the remainder of his life is relegated to attempting to make up for what he once did, but he can never forget and he can never take it back. He must live with that guilt. That's the curse. The curse is the very representation of guilt manifesting. The desperation to want to do good but never actually feel it yourself is such a dilemma for the mind, and so much of Angel is dedicated to that ideology. Angel's first appearance in Buffy Season 1 sees the revelation that he's a vampire, and Darla attempts to coerce him into relapsing into his dark vampiric ways, even setting him up for the fall for Buffy to kill him. But rather than trying to explain the truth to Buffy, Angel just kind of lets it happen, opting for the easier way out. He tries to trick Buffy into killing him, ending his guilt, ending his suffering for real. This act is actually mirrored at the end of Angel Season 1 when Faith comes into the show. Faith is also a slayer like Buffy, introduced in Season 3, but due to a variety of circumstances and her own actions, finds herself going down a dark path. She feels a total lack of control over her life.
You're all about control. You have no idea what it's like on the other side. I mean, nothing's in control. Nothing makes sense. There's just pain and hate, and nothing you do means anything.
After accidentally killing a man, she fails to deal with the guilt, so commits down that road, being evil because she believes that she has no choice. She doesn't know where her place in the world is outside of that, so she tries to embrace it. And that's when she comes into Angel, actually hired to kill him. And the concluding fight sequence between the two is great, because at no point does Angel take the offensive. He never throws the first punch, allowing Faith to exert all her energy until she breaks in his arms, begging him to do it, screaming that she's bad. Unable to live with herself, desperate to stop the constant pain, thinking that she can never make amends for what she's done wrong. A very elaborate plan to end her own life. As I say, a very clear parallel to Angel's episode in Buffy Season 1. But Angel refuses. He's not going to kill her. He's not going to allow her to be killed. He knows these emotions firsthand himself. What Faith is now going through is exactly what Angel has been going through for hundreds of years after receiving that soul so long ago. The feelings of empathy, the feelings of guilt, the feelings of shame, and the unknowingness of how you get back to a potential normality, if that's even an option. He gives the speech about how it won't be that easy, and I love the line about where Faith is saying she doesn't know how she's going to make it through the next 10 minutes, and Angel responds with, okay, make it through the first 5 or the next minute. He knows it will continue to hurt, but there's no reason that she has to be what she's scared of being. The following episode sees Buffy directly cross over. She is come to LA with vengeance and fury, and justifiably so. But Angel, having these years of experience and dealing with his own horrendous crimes, Faith, as I say, is going through those early stages right now. She's finally come back from hell, and Angel is adamant not to give up on her. Faith hit rock bottom, and in her failure to end her life, she's now totally lost, and Angel is now going to try to save her soul. Buffy and Angel clash over their morals here, because Faith caused Buffy so much pain, but neither of them are right or wrong. They eventually reconcile after the argument in this episode, obviously, but it's one of those cases where Angel's complexity as a character shows the lack of clarity on right and wrong in the real world. Due to emotion, Buffy still sees Faith as a villain, plain and simple, black and white, and entirely justified. But Angel can see her and her issues from a more complex perspective, and it is a direct clash of those typical black and white worldviews in contrast to the grayer, more morally questionable worldviews that you develop over time. And it all comes full circle with Faith in the episode Orpheus in Angel's 4th season. Faith returns to defeat Angel's evil alter ego Angelus, who has come to the surface again, and it ends in a literal battle within Angel's mind. We see his guilty past and attempts to move forward with Faith slapped in the middle to bear witness. But when it all comes to a head and Angelus and Angel are fighting, Faith is once again kind of ready to give up.
Angel dying.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than redemption, huh?
She feels that the fact that she failed to effectively deal with the Angelus situation is proof that she can never truly make amends. Even with trying, she just receives more pain, and that fear of being the worst version of herself remains. But through seeing Angel's memories, he explains how even since having a soul, he's done so much that he regrets. And it's an excellent showcase of how things aren't always so cut and dry. Just because he has a soul doesn't mean he's exempt from wrongdoing. There can be huge shifts, but it's never as clear as hitting a certain age or having a certain event happen, and after that, sweet, you understand how you navigate life now. It's not as simple as reaching adulthood and you suddenly know how to do everything and you stop making stupid mistakes. You can go to all the therapy, save all the souls you can, and still do things that in hindsight make you view yourself in shame. But it's about what you do after that. That's all you can control, so that's all that matters.
So, we've established the Buffyverse shows are not only capable, but inclined to asking the big questions, to addressing the hard themes that every one of you, yes, you, will see or go through in this fun thing we call life.
In my head, I think I'm sobering up.
Whilst I may have my criticisms of Joss Whedon, the creative and executive producer, as a person, unfortunately, to explore this topic, I do need to explain his commentary on philosophy, particularly in the realms of these shows. Joss identifies as a humanist, and it is very clear that was a big message he wanted to convey in his Buffyverse work. He described humanism as a belief in humanity's potential despite overwhelming evidence of its flaws. Humanism is built on the idea that humanity is worth having faith in, as we have the capacity to build ethical frameworks through empathy, community, and personal evolution, and that could overall lead to good, so it's worth trying because we are capable, even if we don't always get it right the first time.
The important thing is not that we're right. The important thing is, where do we go from here?
It's an ethical framework, not an existential worldview, but a choice you make to provide meaning to your life. It's valuable because you choose it to be. It's kind of hard to believe in humanity sometimes, though.
You are a rude, terrible person.
Especially since we humans are the ones playing the roles of villains and demons. I mean, the world's always ending, both in the show and in reality. I'm sure since the beginning of mankind, we had one reason or another to think the challenges were insurmountable or simply not worth the struggle when there's no guaranteed wins. The difference for reality is it's not Hellmouth antics in an LA supernatural apocalypse. It's the real wars. The genocides, the countless examples of violence and oppression built into the very foundations of our society. And it certainly doesn't help that in the modern world we now wake up to a little glowing box in our hands screaming about the horrors that keep happening globally, then scrolling down to reveal a silly video of a cat falling face first into a bowl of kibble. I mean, it's damaging to the brain. It's easy in all this mess and chaos to feel hopeless, to see our political economy and think, yeah, we're doomed. Joss's humanistic motivations for the show were undeniable, and the value of the message is timeless. We can't give up when we have so much potential. Suffering, struggling together as a community could lead to the best decision we've ever made. It's that classic image of the guy with the pickaxe just about to reach the diamond, as cliche and memed as it is. And whilst I'll avoid going into too much detail, I see it as an opportunity for transformation, seeing how and where everything goes wrong, and with the right efforts learning and doing things better. Learn history, guys. Pay attention to politics. Community can create change. Ignorance is our biggest weakness.
Boneless tit.
Anyway, the Scoobies and Angel investigations are a beloved cast of characters because they act as a foundation of comfort for the viewer. They become a community in the show that, even in hard times, they manage to pull together in humanity's best interest and fight to save the day. The shows have no issue making our heroes morally grey sometimes. The writers definitely don't hesitate with making characters make decisions that may upset the viewer, and yet with all the mess, these characters all contribute something. There is a deep feeling of loss when one dies or leaves, even if we get new amazing characters that are supposed to offer similar functions. Which I'd say for other shows I don't find the case, but the writers do such an amazing job of making every character complex and believable. You connect to how raw and relatable they can be. When Cordelia and Oz left Buffy, I felt their presence was missing. Even if we got more Spike, Anya, and Tara, who I love so much. And I think that's rather beautiful. And if this franchise has been beloved for generations since being released, if these fandoms have been built over the love for this world, these characters, maybe we can learn to love ourselves. See our value and contribute to whatever communities we exist in, even if one person's strength looks different to another. Maybe you're not a slayer, but a carpenter who can fix the mess and help with research. Or maybe you help by reading people's auras, offering connection and entertainment. I don't mean these examples literally, of course, but this universe, the writing in these shows, really does remind us to find our individual value and strength, whatever it is, and utilize it to thrive and help. There is also an emphasis that even if we make bad choices, we can learn from them and be better together. Humanism is a message that makes shows like this get cult followings. It's why shows like Star Trek, Friends, The Good Place resonate with so many people even after time passes, because they scream hope and love. And as watered down as those terms become, we will never stop feeling those things deeply, because that's what makes the human experience what it is. We suffer because we know hope and love, because we want to feel them more, always.
As just discussed, the parallels that Buffy present between the fantastical beasts and demons and powers manage to resonate incredibly effectively to things in the real world that aren't so fantastical. This leads me to the idea that the true villain of Buffy Season 6 is depression itself. After being dragged back from heaven to the shithole that is planet Earth, Buffy is forced to see this whole new life after university, after losing her mother, after finding peace, and now losing that, having that ripped away. Where do you go from there? It leads her down a totally self-destructing path, using Spike for her own pleasure, hurting herself in the process, just to feel anything other than the sadness. Willow is on a similar trajectory here. She has fallen into a big magic addiction. After her and Tara break up, she copes through the use of magic, and eventually, after Tara's death, she does the same thing but to a much greater extent. It's a very clear allegory for drug use. She becomes consumed by magic because it allows her not to deal with the pain of grief. By the end of the season, she's set on destroying the world along with herself because of all the pain that she feels in herself as well as from other people. If this is all there is, then what is the point? Surely it's an act of mercy for it all to go away. But Xander becomes proof that even in the darkest of moments, there is still life and love to be had and to give. At a time where Willow believed everything good in the world was gone, Xander shows otherwise. Likewise, Buffy, the thought of not being able to see Dawn and her friends again reminds her what she has here. There is always love somewhere in some form, and that can be enough to live for. Buffy and Willow get to retrospectively reflect on these things in the following season, but I will come back to this in a little bit. First of all, I want to go back to Season 2, the episode Lie to Me. Buffy is faced with an early example of harsh reality on humanity's side. She has to deal with an ordinary guy who is willing to give her up to Spike in order for his transformation into a vampire. His reasoning is that he has no other choice and no other purpose. Season 2 is full of Buffy's worldview being questioned. Of course, hugely with the second half and seeing Angel's true inner darkness, but at the end of Lie to Me, a conversation between her and Giles ends the episode. Seeing her questioning if things would ever get easier, clearly feeling the increasing weight of responsibility and hardships that life throws her way, but she kind of knows the answer to that question already, so requests that Giles lies.
Does it ever get easy?
You mean life?
Yeah.
What do you want me to say?
Lie to me.
Yes, it's terribly simple. The good guys are always stalwart and true. The bad guys are easily distinguished by their pointy horns or black hats.
A very similar thing happens in Angel Season 5 when Wesley is dying and Illyria comes to his side. A demon named Illyria assumed the body of the character Fred, and Fred was the love of Wesley's life. But Illyria taking over this body killed Fred. For the remainder of Season 5, Illyria was a mainstay character, and a constant reminder of who they'd lost. It became a difficult differentiation due to the fact that it's still Fred's form, it still looks like her, but none of her is actually left. Wesley has one of the best arcs of any character in the Buffyverse. Early on in his time on Angel, he states outright how Angel isn't afraid of death because he has nothing left to live for. That can really sum up the difference between the soul and the soulless, being human and being something else. Eventually, that's exactly where Wes finds himself.
So thematically, it shows the line between the light and the dark can be blurred quite easily. In a literal sense, the line is drawn between humanity and demons in the show.
The only thing he cared for anymore was Fred, and so when that was ripped away from him, he had nothing left.
I'm scared. Please, why can't I stay?
No. Wait!
As he lay dying, Illyria asked if he wanted her to lie to him.
Would you like me to lie to you now?
Yes.
My Wesley.
making him see Fred one last time. At the end of the road, he allows the idealism to infect him. He knows it's not true, but it doesn't matter. Both of these moments from Giles and Illyria are true acts of mercy from their experiences of the world's hardships.
But now, not to dismiss the value of humanism or its message, but let's say you feel, for whatever reason, like you can't have hope in humanity right now. What if, at this time, humanity is failing you? Where do you find the strength and purpose in yourself when hope and fighting in humanity's best interest feels impossible, and you're costing your own energy and will in the process? I mean, we have been a witness to Buffy's mistreatment from her closest friends and father figure, particularly in season 6 and 7. Sometimes, even when you sacrifice your life, multiple times in the interest of humanity, even the good guys, the community, can let you down by, not supporting you the way you need when you're suffering, or even kicking you out of your own goddamn house. Yes, I'm still mad, always will be, so where do we go from there? Ladies and gentlemen, gays and theys, I present to you absurdism and optimistic nihilism. The concepts are actually very similar, with a slightly different focus to a related point. Now, you might hear the word nihilism and immediately associate that with something negative. Nihil in Latin means nothing, so nihilism is, in its simplest form, nothing-ism. There is no inherent meaning, and that is a pretty hardcore existential thought. But perhaps, in hardcore existential times, that's what you need. Optimistic nihilism urges you to see that not as an opportunity to go give up and have an existential crisis about the fact life has no inherent value, but instead as an opportunity for liberation from external expectations and a reminder to live and experience life fully because we're here anyway. Make the most out of what you do know you have and treasure the meaningless existence you've stumbled into. Particularly, season 6 in Buffy is very nihilistic and dark, as Jax talked about, making it a controversial season for fans. But I think it was incredibly valuable. I think for people going through depression, it was actually very liberating to see characters we know and love experience the taboos that many shows are too scared to touch. And seeing a hero go through that, recover, and eventually reclaim her life and begin to heal, powerful beyond words. Now, absurdism highlights humans' innate desire for meaning, order, and fairness, and how the universe is chaotic and indifferent to this. This clash is called the absurd. The principle of the philosophy rejects the universe's meaninglessness not by seeking external meaning, but by living in rebellion against the absurd. It's about embracing the conflict and finding fulfillment through personal values, authentic experiences, and living life to the fullest despite the lack of objective purpose. I feel like nihilism is touched on pretty heavily, even just with the concepts of vampires themselves, because eternity can make you more philosophical over the everyman who's distracted with their shorter lifespan and function in society. Immortality has usually been something Angel has advertised as pretty bleak, lonely, and empty. For Spike, yeah, he touches on the emptiness, but he adds his own absurdist flair as opposed to soulful brooding, even once he gets the soul. It's evidenced often that chasing highs and pleasure or creating a self-made purpose is all they have. But really, I think that message applies to everyone. Make the most of your life, accept the darkness, and thrive anyway. Because whilst life can feel soulless sometimes, we can reconnect with our own souls even if we feel lost. We can use our conscience to guide us to making better decisions, and it's important, because I say so, that we have fun and avoid going on autopilot. This does not include draining people's blood and terrorizing villages for 100+ years, in case any of you fang bearers need to be reminded. Chaos and injustice will probably always be here. How do we learn to accept it and embrace our inherent emptiness in hard times? How do we find the strength within ourselves? If humanism is the ethical framework where you look to work with the collective for the greater good. Optimistic nihilism and absurdism are the foundations in which to embrace that choice, that framework. In the face of the discouraging disorder of our universe, these concepts validate that there are no real rules and there is no promised happy ending or guaranteed justice in this world. Bad things happen, but are you going to make sure you embrace your life despite that? In spite of that?
In Angel Season 2, we see Angel grow impatient with defeating the evil, Wolfram and Hart, so takes it upon himself to work alone and take out the company. He attempts to go down to the root, to cut off their head, to reach the end, and once he finally wins, the pain should lift. He defeats the evil. So surely the pain would then lift somewhat. What you need to remember is that the home office of Wolfram and Hart has been set up to be the endgame, but when Angel tries to take them on, it's revealed that the home office is just Earth. There's no single figure to kill. There's no building to burn down. This revelation causes him to want to throw his life away, because when is the pain and guilt going to end? There's no foreseeable ending, and the guilt and new pain continues to pile. So he goes to sleep with Darla, knowing full well that it would turn him back to Angelus. But rather than perfect happiness, he feels perfect despair.
You cannot tell me that wasn't perfect. Not only have I been around for 400 years, but I used to do this professionally, and that was perfect.
It was perfect, Darla. It was perfect despair. I gave you everything I had left.
This is what leads to the quote, "If nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do." Just because he couldn't take out the big bad and rush to the finish line doesn't give him the excuse to throw his life away. There's never a way to snap our fingers and deal with a problem. It's never as simple as just defeating the evil, cutting off the head. It's always a process. If our lives are predetermined, if we are forced to live with the pain and guilt of our sins and regret all of our mistakes, then the only choice we really have is what we go on to do next. Both shows are long journeys, but despite ending at Season 7 and Season 5, the story and emotions never end. Season 7 serves as a very reflective story, and I think those are all the standout moments of that season. Buffy looks back at her relationship with Spike and how she allowed herself to be hurt because she felt she deserved it, due to her own internal emotions. Fleeting moments believing she might be better than her friends, and the depression that followed after returning from heaven, and that need to self-sabotage. We see Willow return from rehab and is plagued with the constant fear of falling back off the wagon and hurting those close to her once again. We see Spike dealing with his newly acquired soul, and so therefore all his guilt of his past crimes boil to the surface as he tries to take steps forward to be a better man. At the end of Season 7, they do defeat the first evil, as well as closing the Hellmouth, but Giles states that there are still many more all over the world. And the final line of the show is, "What's next, Buffy?" In Angel, the final line precedes a huge battle against the demons of hell trying to reach our reality. But we never actually see the fight. We end on the quote, "Let's go to work."
So, we've established some philosophical concepts that are applied in the Buffyverse, but soon enough, like the shows, this video, hell, this life will end. Applying these ideas won't be easy. Sometimes it may feel like the universe is against you. It's not, as we've established, the universe doesn't care, but that doesn't change how hard it is, how hard it will be, whether you lay down and give up or fight for good moments. Rebellion against the void creates personal value. Whether it's, I did something good, I had fun, I learned something, or simply, I kept going anyway. It's the most punk rock thing you can do, and I truly encourage you to make a soulful punk vampire proud. But this is your choice to make. So make your choice.
We take what we can get, champ, and we do our best with it.
Are you ready to be strong?
2 phenomenal final episodes that leave the characters and themes in perfect places. I know the stories continued through comics and now we're getting a sequel series, but those are 2 very different topics for a later date. The way both shows end perfectly resemble what the shows mean: the uncertainty, the challenges, the dread, but the love of life. The ending of Buffy really complements a lot of what I've spoken about with Angel, in how, despite defeating the evil, Sunnydale has caved in the process. Like, this is what they've been fighting for, but there's still evil out there. There's still challenges that are on their way. Even if Angel was able to go straight to the Home Office and destroy the evil, that wouldn't have been their last. So we have a finite amount of time, and eventually death does come for us all. Whether it's scheduled or not, it will come. So the reality is that it's up to all of us to make that minimal time really mean something.